What thing? This?
Hey, everybody. How's everybody doing tonight? Welcome to the Oddcast podcast.
Off the record.
Of course, I'm Blackie.
I'm Erica.
She's got to be Erica because I wouldn't be a good Erica. How's everybody doing tonight? Hope everybody's had a great day. I know we watched or listened to the Woodwalkers show today. Awesome show, as always.
Mm-hmm. And the Cryptid Huntress last night. It was nice to see Gary on there.
Yeah, we last night was quite a few shows we watched. Just nice getting all the information we can get from those shows and hear everybody's experiences. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about some doom and gloom. I know that Mark Green had a show the other day with Spencer Jameson and David. I don't know David's last name. About what's going on in the world as far as AI and all these other things, and it got her and I thinking even more. And I've been talking about this for a long time with her. Is what is going on with our world? What are all these things that seem to be happening, and do they spell doom for society? Is it the end of the world? I'm not the most. I'm kind of biblically challenged.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't grow up in a religious family. I'm just kind of getting into all this now, and I have a lot of friends around here, especially in Middle Tennessee, that are, we're in the home of the Bible Belt, and I get to learn a lot just talking to people. And a lot of the things they talk about are things that I see going on or hear going on, and it's remarkable how similar a lot of it is. I think most of the Bible that I got from growing up that I knew of were quotes that were in rock and roll lyrics. So that's probably about as far as I do. So our conversation tonight won't revolve a whole lot around religion. I know that Mark Green is having a show Saturday or Friday night after his and Rebecca show that we're going to do like a question and answer session and talk about stuff. So there'll be a lot more discussed. And I highly suggest, if you're not busy, to check that out. But tonight we're going to kind of start the show off something we've been really noticing with a lot of, hold on, I got a frog in my throat, with a lot of things we've been seeing going on. Now, we are a couple that does not watch mainstream media whatsoever. There is no CBS, NBC, ABC, MSNBC, Fox, none of that. I just don't believe that any of it's true, and we'll kind of hit on that a little bit too. A lot of what we go by is what we see every day, or things that we watch on YouTube. And I'm talking protests, interviews, and that kind of stuff. One thing that we've really noticed is that it seems like people now have a lack of respect for life, whether it be murder, assassinations, abortions, and that's a whole different topic I don't really want to get into right now, but it just seems like there's a big lack of respect for life. We've seen there, I think just recently there was a high profile murder of a woman that moved here from the Ukraine to get away from everything, and a gentleman on the bus assassinated her, just walked up and pretty much killed her right there on the it was either the bus or the subway
for no reason.
And that seems to be happening a lot lately. I actually, and I know this sounds kind of funny, not funny, but morbid, I guess. I watch a lot of hitman videos where people are just doing their own thing and somebody up and does something to them. And I just got to think, how can somebody live that life? How can somebody go take out other people that might have families? And I realize that drug world's big into that. And and just, the criminal element altogether. But it just seems like it's really starting to pick up, that people are really starting to just not care about everybody else. And I'm an eye for an eye guy. I'm a person that believes in, what you do to me, I can't forgive. I'm going to do back sevenfold. If you harm a family member, I'm going to, you get what I'm saying. But nowadays it just seems like it's really getting worse. And yes, pyro, we're going to discuss that too, my friend.
We will get to that.
Yeah. One of the things that brought me to this is a lot of the videos that I'm seeing are like public freakouts. And what I mean by that is, and I know you've seen like videos back in 2020 of what's the name of the group? Black Lives, the BLM riots that were going around after George Floyd, where people would just, attack the police officers, attack other people. I know, breaking into stores, looting stores that had nothing to do with anything. It was just to break in and the lawlessness. And I think that's picking up as well, when states let it happen. When, I think one state has it where, if you steal less than $900, it's a misdemeanor, it's a slap on the wrist. Well, that just pretty much says, hey, let's steal, right?
It's a shame that you walk into Walgreens and razor blades are locked in a case, or medications, or pantyhose. It's ridiculous that as a society, certain people feel that it's okay to do that. And, it's just a shame. But I feel like that is something that's gotten worse in the last few years. And then, there aren't many repercussions to that bad behavior in certain areas, as Chad was saying. So it's just a shame. And those things I feel like are hard to come back from, when society is trained in that way. It's hard to come back from that, to be stronger than that.
What do we do about, we look at our judicial systems and what's happening there. We've got this country so divided right now, and that'll lead me into one of the other topics here, but we're so divided on everything. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad, somebody's going to be against it, and the media will play that and make it explode, and then it gets worse. Or politicians will explode that. You've got this side versus that side. I know for the longest time I leaned super right. And now I'm kind of floating, well, still to the right, but in the middle-ish, because I've just seen so much happen and all the lying and everything that's going on with politicians. And it's both sides. And it's been going on for years, but when you get older, that's when you really start noticing this stuff. And as much time as I spend, more than I should spend, watching the videos, watching the Senate hearings and these silly charades they're putting on. It's really funny that thwe people act like they hate each other, but then they hang out with each other. So, it's an act. It's all a big act. But, when we talk about lack of respect for life, we look at the generation coming up now. When I was a kid, kids had shotgun racks in the back of their cars or their trucks. I won't say cars because that sounds kind of silly, but, shotgun racks, because maybe they were going to go hunting after school, or maybe they went hunting that weekend, or they just kept their shotgun there or rifle. And, nothing was ever talked about. There were no school shootings. There wasn't anything even remotely like that. You might have a shot, somebody gets shot not every once in a while, rarely in that generation. But now it seems to be, out of control. We talk about school shootings. There's a lot to that you can take out. I think the school shootings are a mental health issue. Again, it goes to lack of respect for life. That's something that we could talk hours on in my book, but we won't talk hours on that. It's just, we'll just hit on that. Another thing I remember is I grew up I'd say my son grew up. My son is 30 years old, and he grew up in the the video game generation. I mean, we had Atari and Intellivision, and I've never blamed music or video games for anything that goes on up until these days. And I'm talking the past 10 years, because I see games like Grand Theft Auto, which I loved to play. It was fun. It was like a little fantasy world you could jump into, and you're a gangster or whatever you are. But I think a lot of kids have played these games and not realized that's what they're not doing. And it's like, oh, I can drive over somebody, and the cops will chase me and I'll get away. It's just like the video game. And Mac McManus, correct. I agree. Kids seem to have a general lack of respect for their elders. Yeah. Go ahead, hon.
Okay. On that, real quick, if you see me on my phone, I don't have my keyboard to type in chat here, so I'll be chatting from my phone as Augcast podcast off the record. But so one of the latest things, and a lot of what I have seen is in public, myself. I've seen a lot of changes, and I worked retail, let's say in the year 2000. So it's been 25 years. I've worked retail, and through the decades now, I've seen changes, whether, I'm working or whether I'm a patron, you know, and I remember back in 2000, around that time, I worked in a small town. Well, then I moved to a city, a bigger city, a couple of years later, and I worked a different job, but still retail. And it was eye opening for me back then to see how things changed with different people. And, it was a couple of years had gone by, but it was a different area. So there were different people, different residents, different visitors, were from other areas, not from the small town I was used to. Okay, so that was the first time I really saw changes. But a lot of the things more recently have been online and YouTube, or, you'll see TikTok videos or whatever. I don't have TikTok, but you'll commonly see these things on TikTok. And one of the most recent things we've seen is where people are going to Walmart and eating the food that is from their deli. They'll walk around the store and eat the food and won't pay for it. They won't scan the barcode. They just eat the food and they'll stick the empty case on a shelf and walk away. And that is theft. That is unacceptable. But a lot of the videos that we've seen where people do that, their kids are with them. They are teaching and showing their kids to not give a what, because that's what it boils down to. And um, it's just a shame that, for one, that they're doing it, but also that they're teaching their kids to do that, because it's already a dangerous situation how parents have been raising their kids. And I feel like that has a lot to do with the increase in violence and the mob thefts that have been going on, typically in the bigger cities. Um, People push buttons and they push the limits until they can't. And it's a shame that we're raising people who are growing into adults that can't be alone and trusted to just walk in society and live a normal life. It's just a shame.
You kind of see the beginnings of a lawless society. And that'll bring me to this one. The fact that the military has been, the National Guard, some places the military has been sent to these bigger cities to help with crime. I know it's not really. I know it's the National Guard and the local police departments, but even governors or mayors are telling the government or police departments, don't help the National Guard, or and this kind of thing. When you can kind of look at that different ways. If you're a person like me that believes that the military should stay out of everything in the United States, you kind of look at this as like, this could be a scary situation. But you also have to look at, can we bring crime down in these big cities? Because these mayors are just letting things go. I mean, you're looking at a time in life when a sitting president is having to battle a governor of a state to make it safer. And they're coming up with every excuse of why the government should stay out of their state. Our crime rates are coming down, but yet they're not. They're just not putting certain crimes in there anymore. And that leads to what I call separation, because what happens there is people like us who live in a small town say, well, we're not going to a big city. I mean, I'm not taking the chance if I can't carry my gun in a state or a city because of who the mayor is or what his political ideology is. When I have a Second Amendment right to carry my firearm, then I just don't need to go to that place. I can spend my money elsewhere. And I don't want to have to worry about that. I worry, she carries as well, but I always worry that somebody's going to be stupid and try to do something to her, and I'm not going to let that happen. This is my number one right here. But, there's so much going on in these big cities, and I believe that the government is also, the news and the government are pushing this so we see it. Make sure you see it. Watch this side go against this side, and this happen, and this happen, and they blast it all over the news, and it's this person's fault. It's this person's fault. And this will lead me to my next, what kind of Pyro was talking about. I'll start off with this. Are we going to get into a possible civil war with our own people because of the media, because of politicians pushing things? I would love to say everybody's smart enough to stand up to these idiots, these assholes. I'll say it. Actually, I would like to say a lot more on who's pushing these buttons to make people against each other. It's we the people, and we are the people. We have people that disagree, but years past, people would just talk it out. You could have a civil conversation with somebody. Now you try to have a civil conversation, somebody gets mad and walks away. I love to have conversations with people. In fact, I've got one going on in Facebook right now, and I can't get them to get the point of what I'm trying to say. So I just think I gave up. You can only talk to somebody so much before you're not understanding what I'm saying. This is a very simple thing. And I don't want to argue.
Mm-hmm. It's okay to have different opinions.
I don't want to, but I think we're being pushed into the direction, I don't know if anybody saw the movie Civil War. A lot of people really didn't care for it. I thought it was very interesting the way they pushed it. And there's a scene in the movie where the gentleman asks, what kind of American are you? And I think about that a lot, because we've got so many people in our country now that either are Americans and they hate our country, or they are not Americans and want all of our free stuff. And a lot of people have gone through. She has a sister-in-law that went through the process to become a U.S. citizen. And it costs a lot of money, and sometimes it can be up on years to get that, to become a U.S. citizen. But again, that's the stuff that gets pushed by the news media and the politicians to separate us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a shame that we can't just say, hey, we're not getting into this. I don't want to get any more political into that, because my philosophy might be different than yours.
Hold on. Catherine asked if that's a newer movie.
Yes, Catherine, I think it's like 2 or 3 years old, if that. 2 years old, I would say. I think Claire Danes, and I'm not sure who any of the guys are in the movie, but it was on, I think, Angel, which is a new channel. I think that's who put it out originally. It's kind of like if you've seen Homestead. I think that's what it's called, which is a great, I thought, TV show, or movie is, at least. But anyway, they're just pushing us apart, and we need to be stronger than that. Kirsten Dunst, my bad. Kirsten Dunst. But
2024.
In 2024. Okay, so we need to be more aware of what's going around us, and realize that some of this is being pushed by the media. And the reason I talk about this is, again, if you create a civil war, what happens with war? I think we've been in a civil war for years now, since 2020, maybe even a little longer. Most of the time, it's just verbal. You have the riots, which we know that there's a lot of paid protesters in those riots, people that don't even know why they're there. I've seen interviews. Why are you here? Well, I don't know. It's just somebody's paying me.
Just hold up that sign.
Yeah, hold up that sign. That's all we want. Stay away from people. Don't talk to people. And that happens all the time. But I think they're really trying to push, the Civil War thing. And what happens with Civil War, if it goes hot, then we're, just like the old Civil War where it's brother versus brother, it's family member versus family member. And we don't want that. That's something the country is above now. We can also look at what's going on around the world. We look at Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Israel, Palestine, or Hamas, whichever way you want to look at that one. There's been there's stuff going on all the time in the Congo. It's everywhere. But if you've noticed lately, it's starting to ramp up even more. We saw the other day that China, Russia, and India they're best buddies. They've always been best buddies. And, we don't know what could come of that. It's funny because everybody says, well, we're a long way from those countries. Nothing could happen. I don't know if you realize this, but the Bering Sea and the Bering Strait separates Russia and Alaska. So that we're not real far from Russia. So that's something that could possibly happen too. And again, it's not us, the people. We just want to live our lives. We just want to enjoy day-to-day life with our spouses, our kids, live those lives. But we go to war, our kids get taken away, go fight in war. For what? Nothing that involves our country, nothing that's going to hurt our country, So anyway, and I'm a pro-military guy. I just think that our military should be to protect us in our country.
Denise's statement.
Denise says, I think a lot of people are unhappy and take it out on everyone. So sad. That's very true, Denise. I know that people are blaming, grocery prices, gas prices, all these different things going on, things that our president is doing, things that our president has done. Everybody's going to complain. They've done it since the beginning of mankind. They've complained. I'm sure Grok and Fung over here, cavemen probably argue with each other about something that somebody did. It's just human nature. But we have to be stronger than that nowadays. I particularly, I've got what in my mind what I think our country should be like, and then she probably has a little bit different feelings than I do. We're pretty much the same, but we're allowed to be different.
Mm-hmm.
Unless she's one political ideology and I'm another political. That'd be kind of tough right there. But
I think what Denise is saying, I agree with that completely. I think a lot of people do take it out, because out in the, we'll just say retail world, okay? Because a lot of the videos that you see online are usually retail related and people freak out. People are in the drive-through at McDonald's or whatever and their order's wrong and they're mad and they throw their milkshake at the drive-through window, trying to hit the employee. It's just a shame. In my opinion, I feel like cell phones have made that worse, that we record everything and a lot of people want a reaction. My other, I'm very passive when it comes to problems. I've learned to speak up in the last few years.
But let me just say this, the fact that she's learned to speak up, I would hate for anybody to tangle with her because when she flips that switch, wow.
So I try not to make a big deal out of something that's really not going to matter. But anyhow, I feel like cell phones, a lot of people want the reactions, people want the videos, they want the views. That's a very negative thing. The other thing I wonder is how much of the changes in behavior and attitudes is due to medications. You know, a lot of, I'll just say Americans are on medications. And, you know, when we hear medications, the commercials, and you hear the side effects, and they can be way worse than maybe some of the symptoms that you're experiencing with whatever the condition may be. I just wonder to myself how many of these public freakouts are started by medications. Could be.
I think it's a good way to look at that for sure. You know, we've watched so many videos of people absolutely blowing a top and destroying everything in a restaurant because their fries weren't hot, or you know, they were denied service because of the way they were acting, and then they go after people, and it blows my mind that people act that way. I mean, it shouldn't, but you know, that's kind of.
But you lived through that in like the 90s and stuff. And you're, from what you've told me, your reasoning was always, you know, whoever would get upset that their stuff took too long to get made or whatever. Okay.
I know what you're saying.
Okay. You know, Chad would, you know, the way he's explained the stories to me, he's like, well, you weren't, you know, why did you go out and eat? You know, you're not cooking this meal. You decide to go out and eat. I think that if we keep those things in mind, you know, people are working for services and people are working actually to help us out. You know, they're not trying to ruin our night or whatever. But real quick, Catherine said a bunch of meanies in the road, Denise. My husband drives slow nowadays, so it's a problem. So
hit that up.
The thing is, road rage, I used to like get upset if people were madness on the road. Like it used to affect me. Now I really try to let that go because you don't know what's out there. And there's a movie I'm going to recommend.
Oh goodness, if you haven't seen it.
This is why I definitely wanted to highlight her comment. Let's see.
It stars Russell Crowe. I can tell you that.
Is it Unhinged?
Unhinged.
If yeah, Unhinged. If road rage is a thing for you or an interest of some kind, no matter where you are in that field, please watch that movie. It's such a good movie.
You will learn to keep your road rage in your car to yourself. And I've seen it. I've done a few ride-alongs with an ex-wife that was a police officer, and you know, I've seen some of those people and what they've been charged with and how they acted, and it's ridiculous. I know I used to get angry, but I would always keep it in the car. You know, I've had people cut me off in the road, whatever, and I'm just like, you know, I'm cursing them out, but my windows are up. I'm not going to deal with this. Where we lived, we pretty much had to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where we live now, you might get a finger. That's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
Where we lived before, you were probably going to get, if you went too far, you'd probably get shot at. So again, that goes back to lack of respect for life. You know, if you can take somebody's life because of an argument, then you've got an issue.
And Denise said, had someone follow me into the store and scream at me. I'm sure that was road rage related.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, Mac, it's a lot of, I feel like I've been behind people sometimes where it's like they don't act like anybody else is on the road. And I'm just like, okay, I'm right here.
But this is also part of the lack of respect for people. You know, we all get angry at times about everything. You know, I've gone to a restaurant, my food cooked wrong. You know, and I might say, hey, I asked for this medium rare or, you know, whatever, and they usually are like, okay, well, let me get you a new piece, and I don't ever have to say anything. I don't, you know, it's like I was telling her, and like she mentioned that, you know, I chose to go out and eat. I chose to go out and have somebody else serve me. And if they're not doing a good job, then I just don't go back to the place, or I'll give it a couple times. And if it's every time's the same, then I don't go back. I chose to do that. I chose to go out and try that food or do that, have that time at the restaurant. So, you know, the lack of respect, which is big in all different areas. The amount of assaults that are going on nowadays, people just walking. I know even she mentioned cell phones and social media. When you've got TikTok challenges of going up and the one punch, I think it was the one punch knockout thing where somebody just walk up to somebody and punch them. Do it in the South. Do it in the South because you'll get shot. So that was one that didn't go well. We have a lack of respect for life, but I've also seen that people have been punched and you can kill somebody easily, by punching them in the right location. So the lack of respect really. So we've talked lack of respect. We've talked of war going on around the countries and our country possibly. Let's talk about the new, and it's not new, but how much racism has come to the front again. I know in 2020, it really got brought up with the whole George Floyd riots, and it is what it is there. I'm not going to say much to that. I think that George Floyd died of an overdose, but I'll stop there. But it tore the country apart. It tore the world apart. It tore countries that it had nothing to do with because it brought racism to the front again. And it just got, people were getting killed over this. Innocent people were getting killed. And what happened? We had politicians pushing it. We had politicians taking a knee. It just got to the point where we're going to separate this country no matter what. And I think they're doing that even more now. The news is doing it. They're putting the stuff out there, everything that they can that's racial, and they're putting it out. Whether it's white on black, black on white, Mexican, it doesn't matter. It's all out there. Crime happens. It's never going to not happen. Just like I tell her, there'll never be peace in this world. It'll never happen. Let me see. Pyra says, did you see the Karen that didn't get the home run? I did. Oh, let me read the whole thing first. Did you see the Karen that didn't get the home run ball and went off on the dad who gave it to his kid? She was a school administrator and was fired over it, if you can believe the YouTube. She was fired over it. I'm glad you brought that up. Thanks, Pyro. Do I think she should have been fired over it? No. But you know what? That's social media for you these days. She messed up. She looked like an idiot. Sure. People boo her. Sure. That's great. But to lose a job over taking a baseball at a baseball game is a little overboard. I guess it can kind of set an example for, like, if you F up and do something stupid, you can lose, your job or maybe her whole livelihood. What if she was an administrator and a single parent and then she lost her job and she lost everything just because she's an asshole? That's what we've gotten to in society now.
I think also we're missing the whole big picture. We don't know a lot of the details. We've seen what we've seen.
Yeah, we saw a dad run over and grab a baseball and then give it to his kid. But we also didn't see her flipping people off. Oh, sorry, I can't see that. Flipping people off. And there were some other videos where she was saying things to people. And then she came out, tried to do an apology thing. And, it's once you hit the internet, it's too late. But these types of people are out there. And the internet's going to destroy your life. It's something back in my day, which, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have, well, not till later. But when I was a kid, we didn't have cell phones. Yeah, it was the second time she did. I saw that.
Wow.
Yeah. But I think it was the same game, wasn't it, Gary? So we didn't have cell phones, so we could have never filmed all the stupid shit that we did. And I did a lot. I have people to this day that I've run into from high school that'll tell me a story about something I did back in the day. And if you don't know, I was kind of a wild child. And it's nobody was stupid enough to, take pictures because we didn't have that stuff. But now everybody wants to be on the YouTubes. Everybody wants to be on the TikToks, and they want it. Oh my gosh, this video is so cool. I like it. I like it. And next thing you know, this guy's getting paid to do dumb stuff. And it's really ridiculous. And again, that goes back towards a lack of respect, not just for life, but for people in general. They're playing these stupid pranks on people, possibly hurting people this, that, and the other.
Yeah, definitely, Patrick. It can be like you're under the microscope all the time. There are times when it's beneficial that we have those abilities and that technology. And then, I never got into craziness growing up, but I know, just stories that you hear from people growing up that there weren't cell phones when I was a teenager. There were, but not big time.
We were bringing on a special guest here, our hummingbird. Obviously, there's a hummingbird feeder behind the microphone here. And the hummingbird, I don't know if anybody saw it, was sitting here watching the show with us.
Yeah, you might see a couple.
So, but yeah, I mean, we weren't silly enough to film it all and do stuff like that. But now it's how you get popular. Doing these stupid things, that's how you get popular. We did the cold water thing, that you dump cold water on each other, and that was for a certain benefited something. I don't know what it did, because I poured cold water on her, and we didn't, we just poured cold water on each other. It didn't really amount to anything, but okay. But now that's part of social media is to tear people up. And again, why we mention this stuff is because this is part of the decline of man. We did the show on depopulation, and this is also part of that depopulation, where the lack of respect. Well, I'm not having kids, I'm not bringing kids into this world. And I know a prime example is my son. He says, I can't do it. I can't give the kid, I don't want him to go to public school. I don't want him where he lives. I don't want him to go to public school. I don't want this. I don't want that. I don't have time to, teach the kid myself, that kind of stuff. And it's really tough. But, it's like, and I always said this, that there is good and evil out there, for sure. I mean, everywhere in existence here, every animal, it's all good and evil. When you talk about cryptids, it's good and evil. There's good cryptids, bad cryptids. We're the most intelligent animals. Well, we think we're the most intelligent mammals on this earth. Are we? I don't know. We seem to be able to create things, but we also seem to be able to destroy things. And the one thing I don't want to happen is for us to destroy each other. How can nations talk about having nuclear warfare, or our nukes are ready to launch? That's not something you come back from. Because if one person pushes a button, the other team pushes a button, and then the other team pushes a button, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we hope we never get to that point. And I know there's a lot of weird things going on right now with, let's go. So we got topics here we're looking at that we kind of wanted to go over. Paid protesters, military and crime. We talked about that. Okay, I guess we're going to hit this one. This is the one I wanted to save for last, but this one's going to be the one that we talk about the most. And that's something that Mark and them talked about on his show the other day, and that was AI. Now, everybody's used AI to make a cartoon picture, or I know Roger uses AI to do his show, to create the intros and the outros, and everybody uses simple AI. We've seen joke videos where it's an AI cow or an AI Bigfoot making jokes to another AI Bigfoot, and for the most part, they're pretty good. It looks not. We know that that's not real. Bigfoots aren't joking in human language, talking to each other, but for the most part, they look pretty good. I've seen videos where AI videos where it's a woman and a guy talking back and forth, and they look real. You have to look for the things that you can tell are not real, like maybe the words aren't perfect to the mouth, or the fingers. Excuse me. Things like that. They might have too many fingers, or they might have not enough fingers, or whatever. But what I warn everybody is, with AI, it's like when we got the first cell phones and we were able to get the internet on our cell phones. When we got up to a cell phone with, say, 3G, the government was using something 10 times more powerful than that. With computers, the government, we had 100 megabytes per second. Government's probably using 10, 20, 30,000 megabytes per second, maybe more. So they were like, where you were waiting on, let's go back with the old AOL when you were doing the dial up on AOL. The government already had a system where they could bang. They didn't have to do dial up, and think of that with your AI as well. What you're saying that looks somewhat real, you can tell the differences. They have the ability to make people look more real, to make people's voices, all they have to do is hear your voice once, and they can make you say anything you want to say. Jeez, promote a silly item. Yes, right, Pyro. Pyro says they have several where actors' words are being changed to promote a silly item, and that's what I mean. It sounds like I've heard John Goodman's voice used for things, Morgan Freeman's.
Oh yeah, Morgan Freeman.
And what good can become of this? I am a proponent that AI will be probably what wipes us out as mankind. And I've always said when people get in the AI conversation that the movie Terminator and the ideas behind it are real. And I believe that it's sort of fortune telling, or maybe it's something that's already happened. And the reason I say that is because history is what people write. Anybody can write history. Anybody can make it history. You don't really know what your history is. I've watched many, many documentaries, and I don't even know how much those are real, but watch many documentaries on parts of this world that are radioactive, that have craters, that nobody's ever going to be able to live in for some reason, that they claim have been areas where wars have taken place in history. Now, there were no nuclear rockets back then, or missiles, excuse me. So how did this all happen? Well, it's not something you can find much about. Whether it doesn't exist, whether it's just some crazy thing that something interstellar might have dropped in and made the whole area radioactive. But I see a lot of movies that turn out to be true. And that's what concerns me, is that you watch, I know a lot of people look at The Simpsons, not probably this group, but a lot of people watch The Simpsons and have seen things that happen with The Simpsons on the show that end up coming true. I know there's videos on it, and that should scare anybody. If a cartoon show can predict the future, what's really going on? Is there a script written?
Right. I get that vibe.
Yeah. Are we living in the Matrix? Are we a program that gets run over and over and over until it destroys itself, and then it starts all over again? That's the one I go with. I believe in dimensions. I think, her and I have discussed it that, I exist in another dimension and I'm a whole different, I'm Chad, but whatever. I'm a different type of Chad, whatever. Don't want to get into that right now. But the AI thing with what you see on TV, with, what you see here on the radio, it can all be manipulated to make you think that something, if an AI video was created about the whatever X country, because I won't name any countries, X country launches a missile at the US, they can make it so real that you're going to panic. I mean, look at War of the Worlds back in I don't know what year, 30s, 20s, whatever, H.G. Wells, War of the Worlds. That was a radio broadcast, and people freaked the hell out over that. I mean, people were panicking in the streets all over a radio show. So think about if they manipulate and make these AI videos or robots. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to touch the robot thing real quick. Lately, they've been showing a lot of videos of these robots that are playing soccer or boxing or running races. And the robots get so far and they fall over. That's a joke, because robots, they've already let this out. The government are way, way more advanced than those robots. These robots can, we have robot dogs that patrol in certain cities that actually have, firearms on them. There are human robots that are pretty scary, lifelike. So when you see these commercials of these robots falling over, don't believe those. That might be a high school project where they tried to make a robot. These things exist, they're everywhere. So what are we seeing? I know when the last political party was in there, that some people thought the president was a robot at times. That they were using a robot. I don't know. That's not something I can prove, and it's just something. Again, we have a disclaimer before our show that lets me say that without getting in trouble. But and yes, who said that? Mac, right? Anything with a camera on it, they can control. They're listening. They're watching. They're listening here on this computer. I'm on Wi-Fi. They're watching. They're listening. It's everywhere. And if they don't like you, they'll find you, and they know where you live, and they can destroy your life. It's happened to many, many people.
Do you know what this is about?
I think the Adjustment Bureau movie is based on a real thing. I don't know if I've seen that. I think I know what you're talking about. It's like, Patrick, you mentioned that. I mentioned the Minority Report with Tom Cruise, pre-crime division. I don't know if you've heard lately, but they're trying to create pre-crime where they can predict a crime is going to happen before it happens. How?
Mm-hmm.
What I think that could be is part of the Neuralink program that Elon Musk has created. That he's using it for good right now, where they're trying to create. If you have a certain body condition or something's wrong, they can put this Neuralink in, and it's supposed to help with the part of your brain that's not doing right, whatever. So everything created for good can be used for bad. And I think, you get the wrong people in charge of AI, which we know can be hacked. You get the wrong people in charge of that, then bad things could happen. We have robots in our building, and yeah, I would think you would, Bobby, and I would think anybody that's in any warehouse type business has robots in there.
That's true.
The automotive industry,
Yeah.
robots everywhere, and I think we truly have to be concerned of that. Not only can they take our jobs, but they could possibly wipe out humanity. If they ever think that we're threatening them. I know that there's been instances where robots have learned to create their own language to talk to each other.
Or even those fast food restaurants that I think McDonald's may have been one, but maybe about 2 years ago, they had like a self-service, maybe if you wanted to say where you order and pick up and you don't run into another human. You just order everything and then it's presented to you without another person.
Yep.
That's really weird. But we have another one from Pyro here.
Pyro, I was just watching a video on that today. Actually, a couple of videos on that today. I think it's, what is it? Atlas 31 is what it's called. We went through this. What was the other one? Amumu or Amuamua was the other one that came through. And, this one here, they've been trying to do, I think I heard last night, there's a 40% chance that this is, from science said this, so believe what you want, but that there's a 40% chance that this is an actual alien object. It's not, flying gravel or meteor or a comet. So I think that's supposed to happen in the September, October time period. So, we'll see. But you also have to remember that there is Operation Bluebeam that our government's been talking about. That's declassified information that they're going to make it like there's an alien invasion here. So, that's another, Pyro's talking about right there, Project Bluebeam. And will it happen? Can it happen? Hey, we're not going to know if it's real or not, probably. I guess stay strapped, I guess. But we'll see. I mean, when I mentioned Neuralink, I mean that's another way they can manipulate your mind. And
this is the weird part, though. What Pyro is saying, in my opinion, that's the good part about these situations because you can send in the robot dog, and you're saving, an actual real dog, from the search or an actual human um, law enforcement officer, when it comes to the searches.
Agreed.
So
Agreed.
that's the good part, in my
Agree
opinion, about those
100%.
things.
Agreed 100%. And we have bomb robots.
Mm-hmm.
And when we went into Iraq, um, they had the guys that dressed up in the big, if anybody's seen that, what was that movie? Anyway, with Jeremy Renner, he had to wear the big bomb suits. You wear the big helmet and all the go in to defuse these bombs. And now they actually have robots they can go in and do that with. So, um, you know, good and bad. And like I said, I think everything starts out good and then you get one person that makes it bad. And, if this happened, let's say somebody turns a dog robot against somebody and the dog robot has a gun attached to it or a weapon of some sorts and it hurts somebody, people are going to be afraid of those types of robots. So it takes one to mess everything up.
Catherine said, Mark of the Beast is coming. And that's kind of it's a lot related to what this topic is about. We just don't have the biblical knowledge to quote from the Bible. But even with us in our lack of education in that, we can feel that, or what feels that way. Just being out in public right now, everybody seems so tense. And
yeah, you brought this up the other day.
I just get a bad feeling. There's way more negativity than I've ever seen. And even in our awesome small town, um, it's still not so much here, but the things that we see on the internet, and I don't really know how to phrase it, but we see odd, ironic things, and it just seems like a timing thing for me.
What do you mean?
Like it's a matter of time before it feels like it's getting to darker times, is kind of how I feel. And I don't know what those are, but that's just kind of the feeling that I get. And if I had to put it into words, I would say I see things from what I interpret as the mark of the beast.
I know a little bit of, I've read a little bit of Revelation. That was where I learned most of Revelations came from the rock and roll music I listened to. It was Revelation 13, which talks about, woe you, O earth, and no, wrong. Yeah, for the devil sins. Yeah. So Revelation 13, I always looked at that from a rock and roll viewpoint. And then as I got older and started looking at that, talking about the mark of the beast, and then hearing how they wanted to put the chips, and people were so excited about getting these things where they could scan their handprints or whatever to make a transaction. And people were getting chips implanted in their forearms to work at companies. And I thought, who in the right mind would want that to happen? Because if once you put something internally in your body, and Killbox movie Pyro, I don't know if I've seen that one.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
I'll check it out though for sure. But why would you want anything under your body that somebody could manipulate you? You put a chip under your skin electronically, they can do things to your body. They can insert things into your body. We already worry about what's in our food and water and what they can do where. The vaccines we get, we don't know what's in those. These are things that, we've questioned at least the past 10 to 15 years, only because we've only been, together 12. But, my buddy and I used to sit down, and he was a Catholic gentleman, and we would sit down and have these talks, and he would bring up the religion side of it, and I would bring up, what I thought at the time was common sense. And we connected a lot with that, as far as like my common sense was exactly what he was coming from with the biblical part of it. And I just thought that was, that's what started opening my eyes a little bit to everything going on in this world, and I've always been a matrix kind of guy, thinking everything that goes on is somehow there's a programmer, and we've today and alone, we've had 5 or 6 coincidences at once of things that were just like really, really weird to us.
Yeah.
Numbers, names,
I've had a lot
a
the
dog that we
last several
found
months.
today, a dog we found today, and what its name was or what these kids named it was something that was a word that was part of our life, and it was just all really weird. So yeah, I really started looking at everything going on, and a lot of it was matching up with what people were telling me biblic,
Biblically.
biblically. Thank you. And it kind of got to a point where my neighbor is a super nice guy. He's a Christian. He comes over and he starts telling me, about certain books and certain books, stories in the books of the Bible. And he starts reading, from his mind. He knows it that well. And he'll tell me this. Well, God said this and blah, blah, blah. And you're seeing, this stuff happen. And I'm like, man, this is really weird. I really need to investigate this stuff more. And, it's something I'll be doing. Um, I know this Friday, again, I mentioned it before, Mark Green is having a show, and it'll be Mark Green, uh, David, and I'm not sure, I don't know his last name, Spencer from Woodwalkers, myself, and he said possibly one other person. And we'll be having this big talk and talking about this type of stuff and AI. And AI is my biggest thing. That's my biggest worry with everything, because I think they found a way for everybody to start all of this, and AI was the way to do it. Make AI fun. People create things. People are putting every information about themselves into these programs. Hey, take this picture of me and cartoon it. So then you save it to your phone, and your phone knows where you're at. So your phone puts down that information on the picture, and they can get into your phones and see it. People, I'm telling you, it's crazy. And I think,
And then what Max said,
and then
they can control you by wants and needs. That is 100%.
Well, on your cell phones, I mean, you talk about something and then there's an ad for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so easy to find what you were looking for because they know, and they do this with everything. We've discussed, she was looking at something on her phone and ads for it were popping up on my phone. I didn't look for it on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
And or it'll show up on Facebook or YouTube. And it's really something I think that we need to worry about. First thing is love each other. You know what? If somebody disagrees with you, you can either be, no, crap. Hold on just a moment, people. You gotta hit renew. No. Okay. There we go. I get these things telling me I need to renew my thing, and I'm not going to do it. But anyway, so just remember that we need to love each other. If somebody disagrees with you, be the better person. Either walk away, or I would just say walk away. It's not worth losing your life over, or getting into a verbal confrontation with somebody that can be lesser than you. And I don't want to, that's a mean way to say it, but if you're willing to walk away, then you're the better person. And this comes from a guy that loved to fight when I was young. I couldn't just walk away from an issue. I had to feel that I was the guy that was going to prove that I was right one way or the other. But is there anything else we want to hit on here? Does anybody have anything they want to say? We're more than willing to share anything. If anybody wants to come on and talk for a bit, as long as we know who you are. We don't need any Jimmy Crab Legs visiting our show. But, just look out for each other.
Mm-hmm.
I love this group that we're a part of here. All these people, some I've met, some I haven't. And absolutely agree to disagree the end. Yep, that's right. We've met so many people, and just like you guys, we've all gotten to know each other a little bit, whether it's just online like this. But I think we could all get along if we were all in one giant room. Because we don't have to talk politics. We don't have to talk all this stuff. We have things in common here. And that's the way I think it needs to be. And if you want to talk politics, I'm always willing to talk politics. and I won't even get mad about it. So that's how it is. But I don't know what Jerry's telling me here. Probably being mean to me. But anyway, that's kind of what we wanted to talk about. And I titled the show not as clickbait. Um, People could look at it as clickbait. But I think that all of these things that we talked about today point to a very dystopian future ahead of us unless we're willing to change it. Just remember who's making it that way: politics, media. And I definitely believe that evil controls politics and evil controls the media. And they're pushing everything against you that you get angry about. And they're, like I said, they're separating. And that's the stuff that's going to create problems. So all we can do is try to be better than that. Flip off the news, flip off the mainstream. And I don't mean finger wise. I mean, turn it off. I mean, you can flip them off all you want. I don't care. But the mainstream media, those are owned by people that maybe don't have your best interest. We've talked about the elite, the Illuminati, the New World Order, all of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it exists 100%. People can call me crazy for that, but I see too many things going on right now that people need to correct.
Mm-hmm.
People need to worry about their mind being controlled through the media or through their favorite politicians. No matter what side you're on, you need to be careful. You have a brain, use your brain to do what's best for you and your family and your friends. I think that's the best thing we can do. You got anything?
Yeah. Take care of each other and um, do what works for you. I do yoga every morning, and I don't know where I would be mentally at this point if I did not do yoga every morning. That helps me.
Was that aimed at me?
No, not at all. Chad is just, he's awesome. That's like the other parts of my life. But, um, you know, we just need to hopefully, I always hope that people are in relationships where whoever they're with supports. Chad's really good about supporting me having my own opinions and making my own decisions. And I always hope that for everybody else because I've been in relationships where that was not the case. So it's just like, I'm not a drama person. I don't want to get caught up in everybody else's stuff. I don't want to be nosy and waste time on other people's things. So I always hope that everybody else can find their peace.
Yep.
But
And Mac, you said it the best right there. Divided we fall, united we stand. We have to remember that. We have to live by that. Our creator and our forefathers were very smart about that. They knew what we needed to do in the future and what mankind needed to do. And, we are taught, I know one thing that's always bothered me is everybody that preaches for peace throughout the world. And I would love for that to happen. I'm not saying I'm bothered by that. But and I know throughout the history of mankind, there's never been peace. Mankind has fought from day one. We fought, whether you were Neanderthals, Roger, that goes to you if you're in here still, since you're part Neanderthal. The Neanderthals up through all the other ones, Homo erectus, Homo sapien, all of that. We've always been that type of thing. We're a warring type of people. Animals do the same thing. You don't see animals living together in peace. They eat each other. I don't want to do that. I'll eat the animals. That's fine. But just know that we can try to be peaceful. We can try to live that life. It's never going to be there. So you got to do the best you can with love the people around you, like she said, and just for the most part, be the best person you can be.
mm-hmm.
Because the future is, I would love to say it looks positive, but it looks bleak. It looks like there are people wanting things to go south. and that's the evil part of it. So we need to be the good, and
And a lot of people find comfort in their religion and their faith. So we support that even though we don't live that lifestyle, if you want to say, but um, you know, that can be the comfort for some people.
absolutely, absolutely. Um, it's just you do what you got to do, and hold on, Jerry, I'm not completely shaved. I got a whole new face hair thing going to go on here. I might have some big old mutton chops. I don't know. We'll see. But we want to thank everybody for being here. We love you all.
Yes.
We haven't met most of you. Well, I won't say most of you. I don't know how many people are in chat. We haven't met a lot of you, but the fact that you are here listening to me ramble on and her talking coherently.
Coherently or incoherently?
No, she talks coherently. I'm the incoherent one. But that you're here, we appreciate that. I'm not here. We're not here to see how many people we can bring in. I mean, I would love to have people listen to our word and listen to us talk and join in the conversation. And someday we'll get there. We're not looking for anything financially, anything like that. We're here just to talk about with you guys the things that we want to talk about with people. It's not like you can just go out to a restaurant and strike up a conversation like this with people. So we really appreciate it. This is kind of like a psychologist.
Well, this one's been more deep than normal today.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll have a more fun topic next week. We don't know what that is yet, but I'm definitely in the mood for getting closer to Halloween and these cooler temperatures. And I don't know, I think I might have some suggestions on next week's
Well, how about this, everybody? Next week, we let Erica pick what she wants to do for a show.
Sure.
So who knows what you'll get?
No, you don't know what you'll get.
Could be makeup tutorial.
No, I won't do that. I think I'll do something for the season. So, but thank you everybody for joining us and the active chat. We always enjoy that.
Absolutely. Well, I don't have anything else. I tried to keep my list somewhat short. We try to keep our show around an hour unless we get a guest, because it gets boring listening to me. She's a little more exciting than I am, but it gets a little boring listening to me. So when we have a guest, we'll have better, longer shows. Well, as long as the guest wants to. And yes, Patrick Noble, birthday in 2 weeks. Both of us. Patrick, 21st. Blackie, 21st. We're both still young and spry. Not in the mornings, but okay. But yeah, yes, Bobby, September 21st. Yep. Are you? No, I don't think she's the 21st. I think somebody in her family is. But anyway, thank you all for coming out.
Yes.
Next week will be a little lighter subject. But I just want to say before we cut out that take care of each other. Pay attention to the world around you. I highly suggest, and this is coming from me, you exercise your 2A. That if you live in an area where you need to worry about things, learn how to use a gun or a pew-pew, and protect yourself, protect your family. Pyro, you ain't wrong.
No, he's not wrong.
He ain't wrong. She didn't get that nickname for a reason, Erica. So yeah, Jerry knows it. But yeah, I know there's some future shows coming up that she wants to do about some homesteading shows where I think she's going to have some friends join her that she's already talked to. We're going to do some more cryptid shows, odd cryptids. I did the Mothman. We did the Mothman, last week? Yeah, last week. We're going to do like what's the one he gave us that you loved the name of?
Chupacabra?
No, I know you love Chupacabra. Not Scallywag.
Oh, I can't remember.
Jerry, if you're here, what was that creature?
Snallygaster.
Snallygaster, that's it. So we'll do that too. And if I find somebody that's seen a Snallygaster, I'll try to have them on. I don't know.
Wow,
Th-
that's really
th-
out there.
this is a whole new world for us. So
That's a small
yeah,
percentage.
yeah. So I mean, we could do a show on cats because we've got 8 million cats in our neighborhood wandering around, but that wouldn't be fun. Somebody mentioned in a chat earlier about herding cats, and that's, I think it was Hillary actually. But anyway, I'll get off of that because Snallygaster. Thank you again, everybody, for being
Yes,
here.
thank you.
We love you all,
Yes, we love you guys.
and we'll see you next time. Next
Yep.
back on the same bat channel, same bat time,
We'll
whatever.
see you next Sunday on the 14th.
Hey, how did you do that? That was cool.
Okay. Well, everybody have a great night, and we will see you next week.
Yes. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
That's fun.
That was fun.